it at like $100. $10, $40. Could have had it. Could have had it. You know, I'm not going to be after. I took a little profit. Right? But we're definitely in a sharp correction phase. There's no doubt about it. There's fearful sentiment. We're seeing ETF outflows. Some would say, hey, that's the best time to buy. And I don't necessarily disagree. But there are some good positives here too. And the Federal Reserve, they have been cutting rates, which typically is good for risk on assets like crypto. We had a 0.25% cut in October. And we don't know for sure. Powell is hinting that it could be the last one of the year. But the market itself is still pricing more cuts into 2026. Also, the Fed halted its balance. Bringing up Mutasco. Zach, I threw you a mic too if you want to join us too, man. If anybody else wants to grab a mic, please feel free. I don't want to just talk to myself, but I can. I do this for a living. I can talk for 2+ hours. I'm just going to be emotionally drained. But for crypto, here's kind of what matters most, I think, or what's very important right now. Historically speaking, lower rates equals easier liquidity, right? More liquidity. And this is usually good for risk on assets. And so far, you know, Bitcoin has shown a good correlation, a pretty strong correlation with global liquidity. And this has happened over multiple cycles. So we have like a good indicator there. And usually when we see kind of the softening policy from the Fed, it's usually good for Bitcoin. It's usually good for Ethereum. It's usually good for altcoins. I also would say, even though we're seeing some outflows right now from the institutions, we've got to talk about that as a positive too, right? Like BlackRock, Fidelity, these major players, the institutional adoption is real. It's not just something we talk about anymore. And the fact that we're seeing now Solana and other crypto ETFs seeing consistent inflows, this is good for the overall market. Even as Bitcoin ETFs are coming down a little bit, they went up for a long ass time. Like Bitcoin ETF inflows, I mean, week after week after week, we're coming in positive. Okay, so we're getting a little bit of a drawdown right now. They're a little risk off with Bitcoin, but at the same time, they're shifting their focus over to Solana. 16 days in a row, Solana inflows in through the ETF. So one way you could look at this is, are the institutions happy with the gains they've had on Bitcoin, and now they're looking to kind of spark an altcoin rally with some of the large players that have ETFs? I mean, this is kind of a narrative that I've been kind of following and investing through for a while. My thesis is kind of like this. The institutions are here. They're not going anywhere. They dictate where this market's going to go now. So our best chance to win is to front run them and win with them. So could this be a great time to buy Solana right now? I mean, if we're seeing 16 days in a row of inflows. And, you know, there's a lot of asset managers right now starting to frame not just Bitcoin, but other top altcoins as legitimate assets, right? With different roles than Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin is the store of value, but looking at Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Litecoin, these other assets that have a lot of ETFs filed or now live, H-Bar is another one that's got one live. Are we kind of at the precipice of the institutions now shifting gears and getting ready to run up some of these altcoins and light a fire there? Another good sign is that we still have long-term holders, large institutions overall still accumulating. Exchanges, those balances are still going lower, which is good. When exchange balances trend higher, that's not good because people then are selling. That's how they realize gains. They need to move it to a centralized exchange and offload it. But if exchange balances are trending lower, that is a positive sign. That means people aren't ready to say, they're not ready to call it quits. They still think there's more gains to be had. So that's good. And overall, like if we look at some of these top assets, we have really low RSI, which is relative strength index, which is one of the easiest indicators to look at, in my opinion, even if you're not like some crazy technical mind, which I'm not. And I don't think most people here are. I mean, there's some great traders that come in here that use a lot of different indicators, etc. You know, I've got my own indicator, XT Algo. I wasn't smart enough to create it, but I took, you know, a lot of the important factors and embedded it in there. One of those is RSI, is basically, it shows you if an asset's oversold or overbought. And it's just a scale from 0 to 100. And, you know, if it's lower than 40, it tends to be oversold. If it's over 70, it tends to be overbought. Right. So there's a lot of the big charts out there that are trending low on the RSI, meaning they're a little bit oversold. I was listening to a space last night as well, and like a very, very smart technical trader said that he bought Bitcoin, and he's a trader, so he's not looking to hold this asset. He's just looking to trade it. That he opened up a pretty good size long at 90K, right? And traders can be wrong. I'm not saying this guy's bulletproof, but well-respected, good trader said that, you know, hey, at 90K, I like this trade. I think we're going to trend a little higher from here. So, I mean, there are positives, there are negatives. We kind of just outlined, you know, both scenarios. I mean, not everything, but we've encapsulated some positives, some negatives, etc. And I think one of the big things we're looking at too is regulatory clarity. I saw some news come out on the timeline this morning about the Clarity Act, market structure bill, which all of that is essentially the same thing. But we've seen a lot said about, you know, structuring crypto in a way where it makes sense, and, you know, allowing people to know clearly what's a security, what's a commodity. And now with the government reopened, those conversations are happening again. We need a mature framework around cryptocurrency in general in the United States. They need it in the EU. I mean, we need it everywhere. Some places it's a little more clear, but even compared to like 2021, there's much more clarity than we had then, especially for Bitcoin and Ethereum and stablecoins with the Genius Act already going through. But Bitcoin and Ethereum have already got the stamp of approval with ETFs. So, but I do think that could be one of the big catalysts. I think moving forward is this, you know, legal framework going forward, and we need full on answers there. So that's kind of a big breakdown. I just talked for a half hour. Zach, what's going on, man? We got you, bro.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue I have is outflows. Plain and simple. If you want to get nitty gritty down to it, you know, outflows compared to inflows, and it's not looking good. I mean, literally from October 30th to November 17th, we saw pretty much $1.6 billion withdrawn. So, you know, that's tax season. Like I said yesterday, I'm still mid bearish. Long term, I'm extremely bullish, but tax season, everything going on, I think we're going to be swinging sideways for a little bit. and understandably, holidays are coming up around these times, that's kind of what happens. But Holden, I mean, like Bitcoin, I hate to keep going back because I sound like a freaking Bitcoin maxi, but at the end of the day, you don't want to get wrecked after, years and years of investing. So stable portfolio. I'm just, I'm a numbers guy. So when the outflows outdo the inflows, for me, that's a stabling concept right there. It's time to stable up a little bit. And I'm not really bearish. I'm bullish in the long term. I love what some new layer ones are doing. Like the tech is completely insane. I saw Vitalik said something about quantum computing. He's a little nervous about privacy and security and stuff. So, I mean, tech's going to do what it's going to do. It's just BlackRock, the big institutions, they're really wrecking stuff for us, the small guy. But if you're here for the long run, it's all good. But short term, I'm a little bearish. I'm just a realistic guy. So I think after the holidays, all that stuff, I think we're going to move up a little bit. I think it's going to be a shorter bear market than we've ever seen, just because of mass adoption and, banks getting involved and cash printing coming on. Like things are going to move in a positive direction. You may not see that crazy pump that you've been looking for, but I feel like if you're in stable ETF plays, you're going to do really well. Better than keeping your money in the bank. And we got to come back to that, right? Everyone sees these 50x, 100x, but realistically, you're making more money than you do keeping your money in the bank. So overall, it's bullish all around. It's just short term is a little bearish, just because of the outflows. So I've been really watching the outflows and the inflows, and that determines whether I stable up more or just stay, consistent, and just level headed right now. But I've stabled up a lot. So, I mean, any more stabling I do, I'm out of the game pretty much, investment. So I'm pretty happy. I'm actually hoping Bitcoin will go down to 46K so I can buy more, for the next run. But overall, you need a Bitcoin strategy. Like you say, Zach, it's the less risky asset out of them all. And I think to survive in bear markets, and we've been around for a long time, so we see how things move. But, in a bear market is when I think the next meme coin, the next Pepe, the next SHIB is going to move, because in bad times, something always good comes out of it. And it's really easy to catch one of those when not everything is running. So, overall, I could talk forever, Zach. I'll let some probably Mutasco or Mar talk, but I'm bullish long term. I'm bearish short term. And for me, short term is pretty much 1 to 3 months. So I'm not specific on that, but maybe 60 days. Within the next 60 days, I'm a little bearish, but I think we're going to move ahead in the long run. So extremely excited to be here. Shout out to everyone at the Breakfast Club. Thanks for showing up every day.
I love it. And I think, we kind of hit on this a little bit yesterday, Zach, that so typically bear markets in the past have lasted a year on average. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's a little bit more, but say anywhere from 10 to 12 months, 10 to 13 months is usually how long it takes from top to bottom. And that data is there. I mean, all you got to do is, pull up the monthly chart on Bitcoin, blow it out, and look at the monthly, and go back and find the top in 2013. Go back and find the top in 2017. Go find the top in 2021, and the top so far in 2025. And what's interesting is you'll always find that the top is always in Q4, and then the bottom is always around 12 months, give or take, from that top, right? But I think what you're saying is interesting, and I think there's a valid case for this. And here's the thing, guys: nobody freaking knows. I'm not speaking in allness language here, because these people who come on and say I'm 100% certain that this is a bear trap, or I am 100% certain that, I mean, I respect it, right? You've got your reasoning. I'm sure you've got, whatever, but we are in uncharted territory here. I mean, and all I need to look at is this bull run that we just had. This bull market has been different than any other bull market. From when we bottomed out to where we topped out, it took way longer to get there, right? And it's been like a slow staircase up. Meanwhile, Ethereum got up $200 past its 2021 high. Cardano hasn't moved in 4 years. Dogecoin hasn't moved. Chainlink hasn't moved. Avalanche hasn't moved. I mean, you catch my drift here. Like, so it's very different from where we started, from the bear market lows to where we are now, 100%. And so we're in uncharted territory. And to your point, Zach, I mean, maybe you're right. We saw kind of like a 5 to 6 month bear market. We saw that, and I think it might have been like closer to 4 months. We saw that happen in 2019, where Bitcoin dropped down like 48 to 50%. It didn't have its normal, well, historically normal drop down of like 70 to 80%, right? It had a little scoop down like to about 50%, right? And I'm not saying like this is going to mirror exactly what happened in 2019, but you know, again, all you have to do is kind of go back and look at it, and you could start to form different scenarios and how this might play out, right? Or this could be exactly like we saw in April, right? And back in April, okay, if you go top to bottom in April and you run it down, it took 77 days from our local top at 110, okay, down to our local bottom at that time from January to April. So it was, you know, what is that? 3 months and some change, 3.5 months. That was a 3.5 month bear market, essentially, from 110,000 down to 74. And then from 74, we ripped up to 126. Maybe that's what we're in. Maybe we're in, you know, a 32, 33% drawdown so far from top to bottom, 126 to where we are right now at 92. We're down 27%. And it's been 42 days long. So keep that in mind. Back in April, it took 77 days from top to bottom. So far, it's taken 42 to get down 27%. And maybe we just stay range bound, and this is similar to what we saw back in, you know, early 2025. And we come down and we just kind of chop, float around for 70, 80 days. And then, you know, we rip higher in Q1. If that happens, the 4-year cycles are out the freaking window. I'll tell you that. That's why this is going to be a really fascinating time to see how this all plays out. It's going to be really interesting. So stay in the market, hedge your bets, keep some stable coins on the sideline. Don't get washed out. Don't go chasing stuff. If an opportunity presents itself, you know, like a Zcash or whatever, you know, there you go, right? But for me right now, I'm not over leveraging myself. I'm not dumping all the money that I have in the market. I want to keep about a third on the sidelines. That's where I'm at. I've got about a third of my overall crypto exposure in stable coins right now. Actually, probably closer to 40% now, because I did take some more profits on Zcash recently. That's been a hell of a trade for me. That's been nice. That's kind of like a little money tree that I keep going off and just snipping off of. Because we got in there like at $125. I should have bought it at $50 when my freaking indicator told me, but I waited for validation. But anyway, Mar, what's going on, man? And guys, share the room if you haven't already. Appreciate it.
Hey, Zach. Zach, what's up, man? Tosco. Good morning to everyone. Yeah, man. I don't know about the cycles, man, but if we were to say it's the patterns were different, if this was a 4-year cycle, right? The patterns were, or the Bitcoin chart was completely different than the cycle of 2020, 21. You know, we topped in 21 around April to 63K. Then we did a crazy retracement that people were like, "Oh, we're in a bear market," and then it shot up. Bitcoin pumped back to 70. So that was between April, and that pump ended. I never forget that pump ended on Thanksgiving, Thanksgiving, last Thursday of November, when they announced the Omicron, which was the third coronavirus spread. And so it topped in around April, then it just went down. I think the crazy what, like, I want to say it went from 62 to like 40K. What is that? 33%, 35%. Uh, but and then this cycle, we topped just many times, man. Uh, Especially like if we want to say something similar, if we want to say something similar to 2021, it was in late December when Trump was elected, and it was a mini bear market from January all the way to April, and that's when Bitcoin started an uptrend again to 126. And I think forgot in December we topped at 101. So and then we even had a downtrend in April also. Not as bad, not as bad. I think only like 10%. But if we're calling this a 4-year cycle, the you know the 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 Bitcoin chart was just, the behavior was different due because of institutions. But if this is a bear market, if the next 9 to 12 months it's just blood, then we'll look back and we'll say, damn, how fucking stupid we were that October 10th wasn't the signal. I mean, if you look at October 10th, man, and I'm not gonna say like the Thanksgiving weekend was similar. It took a few more days to get a lot of days to get that crazy 40-60%. But that October 10th is like it's 4 years right there. It's a 4-year cycle right there. October, November, like you said, the fourth quarter. And if this is a bear market, I will feel stupid. Like, I'm realizing it more and more because the damage was so bad. I mean, think about it, man. I got friends that are like, I ain't touching crypto after that day. You know, after that day, and they're on spot. They're not even on leverage and all of that shit. They look at crypto as their portfolio maybe 3 times a year. And they looked at it that day because of the news. And I don't care how many people say, "Oh, that gave us a great opportunity to buy." You know what? I want that great opportunity to buy, but man, on a slow death, not that quick death. It's just bad, man. That falling knife is bad for the industry. I don't care how people say. I made money out of it, but at the end of the day, it's just bad. And I think it was just the big boys saying, "Hey guys, here you go. Here's the 4-year cycle. You know, we're gonna dump this shit in hours." And I'm not too much a believer, or I wasn't too much of a believer on the 4-year cycle, the way Bitcoin was going. But me and my friends, we talked, man. I hope like between October and December, we don't get no crazy dump, or people are gonna start speculating again about the 4-year cycle. And it happened. It happened October 10th, and it's just bad for the industry, man. I don't care how uh, the reset, whatever it is. You don't see the stock market doing that. I mean, if the stock market ever does that, it's just straight up, you know, the economy collapse, and it made the stock market act that way. I was actually speaking to someone in towards the end of that space that we were at, Zach, with Peter Schiff, and people were saying, "Oh, the stock market is the economy." The stock market is not the economy. Look, it's something strong. It's important, but it doesn't. The stock market does not collapse the economy. The economy gets collapsed by government overspending, making bad decisions, production. Then war could come in right after, like in World War II, and make it even worse. And then, of course, the stock market reacts to it. and people start selling. But just because the stock market, it's a sign also of if the stock market is going down really bad, something is happening to the economy, but it doesn't collapse the economy, And and I had this conversation with a few individuals that supposedly they went to college, and I dropped out in ninth grade. And I know this, I was lucky that my wife studied economics for 5 years. But Zach, it's man, I gotta give it to the people. If if we are in a bear market for the next 9 to 12 months, which I believe it started in October 10th. I mean, that had to be it, October 10th. I gotta give it to the 4 year cycle people, man. Yeah. I don't know about you, but they were right. They were right. It landed right around that area, that timing, and yeah, I'll say it again. If we are bearish for the next 9 to 12 months, we should have realized that was the sign of the beginning of the bear market. My opinion is 6 months, 7 months max. I think on April we'll start that uptrend again. It'll still feel like a bear market, but we're gonna start an uptrend much earlier, I believe. That's my guess. And I'll land the plane with this. Donald Trump gave us the biggest hint. Mid 2026, $2,000 checks. You know, I think that's when and I'm not saying that these $2,000 checks are going to pump crypto. That's when they're going to inject money into the markets, and I think that's the hint right there. So I'm very very excited around mid 2026 towards the end. And guess why? I wonder why he's doing in May 2026. What is he getting ready for, Zach? Huh? Midterm elections,
100%, Mar. No, I love the takes, man. And listen, like we're gonna find out real quick if the 4 year cycles are still a thing. I mean, we're right around the corner from it. I mean, here's the thing. In previous cycles, Bitcoin has set an all-time high in December. It's always been in Q4. So I mean, if we somehow stay flat here and Bitcoin rips up and sets a new all-time high in December and then comes down, it's still the 4 year cycle. If this is the top here that already happened in October, still the 4 year cycle. But if something weird happens to where we get bearish and say we get a top in like February or something out of nowhere, then that whole thing is debunked. That whole thing is out the window.
Yeah. I give it until December. If in January we hit a new all-time high, that the 4 year cycle is over. It doesn't mean there's no cycles, but there's always cycles. There's always cycles in the stock market. It's just sometimes it's 20 years, sometimes it's 5 years. I just find it hard to believe that BlackRock and the big boys would allow us to time the market. You get what I'm saying? These people do not let you time the market. They're the ones that time. They put the time in the market. The timer. You know. But I'll be shocked. I'm going to tell you the truth, man. I would love for Bitcoin to top, not just because of price point, just to get rid of this cycle theory of 4 years. But I'll be shocked if Bitcoin tops in January. I think we're going to be heading towards. And also, Zach, it's kind of confusing because if let's say that Bitcoin tops at the end of 2026. So you're telling me we went through a bear market of 8 months, Bitcoin wasn't hit that hard, and then all of a sudden Bitcoin topped in less than 3 or 4 months out of the bear market? That's another thing. You get what I'm saying? That me and my friends, we spoke for 4 hours yesterday. So if the 4 year cycle exists, that means that the next Bitcoin top will be I want to say what 2028, late 27 maybe. That's why I find it hard to believe, man, that it will take 3 years for Bitcoin to hit 126K again. I just 2 years and a half, whatever you want to say, after after these 9 month bear, I find it hard to believe, man. I think we are in I mean, we are right now in a time in crypto, man. Uncharted waters, bro, where no one knows where we're heading to, and your best bet is just to hold, man, in assets that you believe in. Doesn't have to be long term, but to get through this and just keep buying because it's so confusing right now. I don't know how people could talk about oh, Bitcoin is going to pump, and it's these guys, man. The BlackRocks are here, man. They don't fuck around, and they
I'll just
yeah.
I'll say this too to add on to what you're saying, Mark. I would say the other thing is, yeah, keep money in the markets for sure, but keep cash on the sidelines, man. Because even when we get into bearish times, we saw some crazy shit happen. Look what Pepe did, and when it happened, right? Shit will still run. Like you'll have like these one-off things, or like this one-off sector over here. I mean, shit. Look what we've seen from Zcash. And I'm keeping a position in Zcash right now. Now, it's easy for me to do that because I'm up big on it. I've already won on that trade. But, dude, there's some other shit happening. You're seeing all these big billionaires, Winklevoss twins are talking about it. This Naval guy is talking about, like, there's a bunch of billionaires in a back room somewhere talking about Zcash. And I'm not in there, but, like, I can see what's going on. Like, there's a reason why this thing keeps going up. Every single time it starts getting fudded on the timeline, oh, Zcash just took a big dip. Like, there you go. The party's over. Rips back up every single time. And look at it right now. It's up 10%, going against the grain. I'm keeping a position there. When you see the big money flowing like that and the big people talking, guys, don't overthink it. Don't try to overanalyze it. Just fucking go there.
Zach, I got a question, man, because I got into crypto in late 2020. I haven't even studied this, but between 2017 and 2020, did we ever had like some type of season? Because if this is a 4-year cycle, in late 23, early 24, altcoins weren't parabolic, bro. I'm talking about, so AVAX hit like $70 again or $60. I mean, and then we had meme coin season where freaking meme coins were flying. Did we ever see that between 17 and 20? Do we ever see any type of seasons that things were flying in the middle of that, towards the end of the bear market? Or because my knowledge is no. So if that is true, this cycle is just completely different. It could still be 4 years, 4.5 years, whatever you want to say,
Yeah,
But,
I mean, in 2021, obviously you were around. Most people were around that are in this room. I mean, I'm sure there's some new folks too, but a lot of people were here at least like last cycle and now. Everything went up at once, man, and you had this like euphoria all at once, right? It was just like it was so easy because everything was moving up. It wasn't like this one over here is up and this one's freaking getting pummeled. This one's up, this one's getting pummeled. This one's, you know what I mean? Back in 2021, I mean, if you were in there at the right time, and there was 2 times to really hit it, it was like early 2021, and then kind of like make your money and go away kind of thing. And then, summer hit, it was kind of boring, and then run it back up. Start getting back in your positions in August and run it back up. And that's when everything, basically double topped. But no, you're right. I mean, this cycle's been different, but we've had runners. Like we've had altcoins go up. It just hasn't had, that everything go up all at once. And we've done it without the euphoria. And I feel like it's because there's not been the level of new money that came in 2020 and 2021, right? Like the brand new folks. Like when you look at Pepe and what Pepe did, that was driven by people who made a bunch of money off NFTs, who made a shit ton of money off other meme coins in 2021 that were sitting there bored as hell and said, yeah, let's run this thing up. That was retail driven, very, very retail driven in the middle of the bear market. It's the people who actually sat on their profits from their JPEGs and wanted to run it up. But I mean, you saw some crazy shit happen with, remember Nero ran to $1 billion, freaking Peanut the squirrel ran to $1 billion.
Not only Nero 2.0, the other Nero
Both
ran to like 300 million. 2 Neros.
Yeah, both of them. I mean, shit. How about the run from Kendu? I remember that
Yeah.
one. I mean, that was one of my biggest wins. So, I mean, there was shit running. It just wasn't all at once, right?
Right. Zach, people are talking about what will be the price of Bitcoin, the floor. You shouldn't be guessing that. You should just DCAing. Like if you bought a 90K, have a plan to buy again, maybe at 85 or 80K, whatever it is. I've always talked to you about doing DCA, but if I was to guess the floor, man, I'm not even gonna guess Bitcoin. I'm not gonna guess ETH. I'm gonna go ahead and say I just don't see us going any lower than I want to say 2.5. And that's stretching it. I think really 2.8, 2.7 total market cap in crypto. I just don't see us going to 2.5 trillion. It just wouldn't be healthy, man, for the whole for the whole space. And this whole market cap is basically the top 50 coins, by the way. You know, if you do the math, after the top 50 coins, and I've said this before, you got like 1.5 billion market cap. What is that? 150 billion-dollar market cap. That's I want to say 30 billion dollars in liquidity for the rest of the crypto space after the top 50. So I say I still think we need to hold that 3 trillion market cap. It's very important. Those 50 plus coins, they need to hold that market cap, and I think we'll be good. That will put Bitcoin 87K, 86K floor. But yeah, if we go under, I think max 250 trillion, which that will bring Bitcoin probably back down to I don't know, whatever it is, 70 something K, which that's the top. If Bitcoin goes down to 72, 71K, that's the top, near the top of 21, and that makes sense. So a lot of people been calling Bitcoin at 30K, man. Like people got to understand this. I want to educate people a little bit that went around. Bitcoin was never, it did, but Bitcoin would have never touched 16K in 2021 if it wasn't for the 4 black swan events that we received in the crypto ecosystem with Celsius, Luna, uh, FTX, and a bunch of others, man, that we had just going bankrupt, losing everything. I mean that is what, and there wasn't that trust. The government institutions were not heavily in it. You know, that's what brought Bitcoin to 70K. And he didn't have that much time to buy the 70K. I think it went back up to 19, 20K real quick. Look what it did to Solana. Solana survived. That's something that I think that's one of the greatest things that ever happened in crypto, man. So going forward, I mean, I take that back. We don't want that to happen. But since it did happen, knowing that a coin could come back and be one of the top coins during this run, you know, but now with institutions in it heavily, the government bullish, regulations coming in, I don't think, and I've said this, Zach, in the show a year ago, man, and the talk is starting to happen again about these treasury companies and Michael Saylor. Remember, I told you guys, if we have something that could be really bearish for this space, will be the treasury companies, and Michael Berry, Michael Saylor, Michael Saylor. I meant, that's the only thing I fear a little bit. But I, I just don't, bro. While we went, I just can't see Bitcoin going down to 30K, man. It will have to be like basically the stock market collapsing. The stock market will need to retrace like 60%, you know, for Bitcoin, I think, to go to 30K, man. And I just don't see it. I don't see it happening, man.
Well, I
Especially
mean,
with yeah.
so I've seen a lot of people on the timeline saying this. I want to go to T Hobbs here too, and I see Mutasco. We got Matt up here. We'll go around the room here. So I've seen a lot of people talking about it, and I know where they're getting it from. I know where the 40K is coming from. Here's why: because in 2013, from top in 2013 down to 2015, it was an 86% drawdown. 2017 to 2019, 83% drawdown. 2021 to 2023, top to bottom, 76%. So if you can see this, it's slowly diminishing over time, right? The bear market is slowly getting less percentage down. Meanwhile, we're not even talking about how it goes up. Bitcoin went up 600, over 650% from 15K to 126, but that's neither here nor there. We're just talking about bottoms. So people are basically saying, okay, well, if it went down 86%, 83%, 76% in the last 3 cycles, well, maybe it'll go down 68%. Well, if you draw the line down from 126 and you go down 68%, 70%, you're right around that 40K number. Now, to your point, we didn't have the institutions. None of those previous cycles had, and by the way, it didn't have Michael Saylor with a $74,000 average cost on Bitcoin. So it is different. We'll see. I mean, but Hobbs, I want to get you in here, man. What's happening?
Hey, what's up, bro? Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Hey, man, thank you for hosting the space, man. I haven't been in the crypto markets in a while. I've been kind of really focused on the traditional markets, but it's always good to tap back in, especially when people are talking uh, charts, not feelings, right? And it sounds like this room is definitely discussing the analytics mixed with the fundamentals and not mixing all of that with the, hey, we have to go up, right? I'm glad we're past that stage in crypto. So that's awesome. Myself, I've been in the markets roughly about 5 years, trading a mixture of futures, options, and crypto. Um, but in regards to where we are in the conversation, I wasn't here for the entire conversation. I tapped in about maybe 20, 30 minutes ago after I got done trading the traditional markets. And I just wanted to throw my hat in the ring as well, like just discussing the analytic portion. I'm not really a big fan of following fundamentals. I'm more so on the technical side of things. And what we're seeing, in my opinion, out of crypto, I'll talk BTC because I don't really chart the other ones, but just out of Bitcoin in general, we've been on a generational rally, right? Like you add in 2020 plus what we're seeing now, even the pullback after COVID, still we got rewarded for that, right? We haven't had that massive retracement as of yet, right? And contrary to popular belief, retracements are good for structure, right? What they do is they allow people to take profits. They allow people that have been waiting to get into the market an opportunity to buy, right, at limit, right? People don't buy at market. A lot of people buy at limit. As far as where we are, the market moves in a range, right? So if you were to zoom out, I think Zach said it best, and look at the monthly, look at the 3 month, look at the 12-month chart, especially the 12-month. Where we are right now is very important on the 12-month because this year's candle is currently retracing back into last year's close, right? So this 90,000, 92,000 is not just a level on the chart. It's actually the close of last year's price on the yearly candle. So if we start to trade below the close, that means that we're struggling to find buyers at that closing price. So now we have to go to a different level where we had previously found buyers. To me, looking at it on the weekly, when we drop down and just look at price for what it is, right? A dealing range. The dealing range on the weekly time frame starts with the high of September or October, the week of September 29th, right? Or October 6th, however you want to look at it, right? That would be the high point. And then the low point is April 7th low of 2025. You guys know anything about the way that the markets move, usually we make a low, and to validate that low, we create a new high, right? In order to validate that low further, we need to come down and retest those lows or sweep those lows. That's what fuels the market to go higher. Well, just based off that simple logic, what we're doing right now after consolidating up there for 4 months, it's not a surprise that we need to manipulate down in order to trade higher, in my opinion. If you believe that crypto's not going to zero, then you have to believe that this market is just going to continuously trend in a range form. The swings are going to be larger on an instrument like Bitcoin because it's just Bitcoin. And when I say that, I don't mean like a disrespect to Bitcoin. I mean that in the traditional markets, an ETF, right, has multiple different things in it. It's a stock of 500 stocks for the S&P, a basket of 100 stocks for the NQ, and 50 for the Dow Jones. With Bitcoin, it is just one asset. Therefore, it is going to be very much less liquid, right? As it's a new asset, right? So when it does start to sell off, it's going to sell off at a faster pace. That's what get us all in these forums and we start talking. But ultimately, it's still following the structure of the market. The weekly low for Bitcoin is between 86,000 or 86,000 272 and 74,554. We could do one of two things in this area. We can hit this area and immediately get a reaction because there's some weekly imbalances there, or what we call inefficiencies in the market, right? When the market taps into inefficiencies, buyers are sitting there to fill those orders. Okay. If the market taps into this area, let's call it 89,183. That's what I got on my chart. If the market taps into that area and we immediately find buyers there, that's going to give me an indication that the market's ready to start putting in new highs, but it needs to make a new high. If it fails there, objectively, it should be trading down to test 80,000. If it fails there, then we should objectively come down to 74.5. If we fail there, then I see us trading back into 65.27. These numbers, if you're an investor, should not scare you. These should be locations that you put on your chart as an alert to say, I don't care what the market is doing because I'm an investor. If you're a trader, different story, right? I'm a trader. So these levels would bother me, right? In relationship to if I'm looking for longs right here, right? I don't want to see it to continue to come down. But if you're an investor, right? I said this last cycle, people need to really define who they are as a person inside of the crypto markets. If you're an investor, you're not even caring when price is at 120,000 because you should have been loading your bags at 50, 30, and 20,000. Now, what you're waiting on is this exact manipulation. You want this to happen because this is healthy for markets. Now you're looking just to see when the market on a higher time frame, such as the daily or the weekly time frame, then starts to make a new high. We haven't made a new high in like 3-4 weeks, right? We've just been continuously trending down, which is a sign of manipulation, right? So once the market takes and reclaims a new high on the weekly, let's call it the weekly, wait for a retest of about 50% of that candle. And then that should be your higher low for the market to start trending back up. Start making objective decisions about your money that are based on technicals and a mixture of fundamentals, and you will find yourself winning and investing at much better levels than just saying, well, this cycle this or that cycle this. I'm not knocking any of those theories. Don't get it twisted. What I am saying though is a level of knowledge on the technical side can relieve you from the emotions that are attached to the fundamental side, right? Understanding the technicals mixed with a healthy dose of the fundamentals can really get you into areas on price that are much better areas than what you were buying at before. If you're buying, right, and this is the last thing I'll say, because I don't want to hold up too much of the time, but if you're buying just because these candles are red, you're doing it wrong, right? You just are, right? And that's okay, right? Because we've all started things and realized that we could have done them better. But just understand that there are ways of recognizing from technical analysis when the market is prepared to reverse. I want the market to reverse because we're getting really close to my area, but I won't engage until it shows the signs of reversal. I may post on my Twitter page about it. I'll give you my analysis, but most people don't read the analysis. They only want to hear me say we're about to squeeze or we're about to go up. It's like, but read the analysis though of where I'm actually looking to engage. I'm looking to engage into the crypto market, BTC, between 89,000 and 74,000. If I don't see what I want in those areas, I won't engage, right? I'll wait for the next area, which is the 64,000. And for investors in here, you should be salivating at the mouth, right? Salivating, waiting, like Zach said, with cash on the sideline for those price levels. Because when we get there, make no mistake about it, the market's not going to zero. That I will hold my hat firmly on is too integrated into the ETFs. Like you got to understand what ETFs means. That means like people's retirement, is attached to that, right? Like they're not going to let that go to zero. So it's not going to zero. So now we just have to decide what is the best price to get in on the crypto market, and then you trade the smaller cap stocks kind of like as like residual income in preparation to buy more of the blue cap stocks, right? So, or blue chip stocks. So those are my thoughts, man. Again, I don't want to take up too much of you guys' time, but thank you for hosting the space, sir.
Appreciate it, man. Great insights. Mutasco, go ahead, man. I see you with your hand up.
No, good morning. I like what the T Hubs said. I think there is I was reading some stuff about this guy called Jim Simmons. He's late now. He's passed, but he talked about, and I was talking to a friend of mine on this because again, we all come out in these spaces and we talk and spin our ideas and narrative, which is good. One of the things that he said that kind of stood out to me was this concept of information. We all, skim through wherever our sources are, but Jim Simon talked about the most valuable information is the information you cannot explain. Now, he talks about if you can explain why a signal works, it's likely already known and exploited. The true alpha is found in the unexplained correlation. Why am I saying this? The and so far in the last 3 weeks, I've read a couple of things, right? I follow Raul Powell a lot. He's more the macro guy with liquidity and all that stuff. And I get it. A lot of people don't dig into these things, so they're dismissive of them, which is also a big problem because if you don't know about something, then don't opine about it. The danger is when people dismiss things that they don't understand. So I follow this guy and I followed him for a while, and I think whatever he looks at business cycle, the credit cycle, the debt cycle, all the cycle stuff, and he comes out with an aggregate signal of what he thinks directionally where the market is headed. And then there's another guy, I read his essays religiously. And I have a friend that when I read, we both read it and we go about, digging into what he's looking at and all this stuff. This guy is, his name is Arthur Hayes. You guys know him. Some of you read his stuff. I read them religiously. And I think he just posted his recent one, which is Snow Forecast. I encourage people to go read it because Arthur has his own, what he calls, as you guys know, people talk about the global liquidity. Um, Everybody talks about it all the time. But Arthur kind of, he's built up his own global liquidity, right? In index. And one of the things that I would say that aligns with what T was talking about is about timing. Before I say what I'm going to say, though, today at 2 p.m., the FOMC, as you guys know, every 2 weeks after the FOMC, we get the minutes, right? And the minutes is usually it exposes what they're thinking. If you guys have been monitoring the bets on whether we're going to have a cut next, um, it's kind of dropping, right? But what I'm foreseeing, and I think the market is already kind of pricing this in. That's why you're seeing a lot of jittery in the market. Is that there's a message out there that says that a lot of the participants in the FOMC are debating on just no cut at all. Okay, and that is a little interesting because if you read some of the commentary by some of the other Fed members, it's almost like they want more cuts, like Stephen Moran, for example. So keep an eye out on that. And Lisa Cook, she's speaking in DC today. I think it's today. And she's going to speak at the title of her speech is The Economic Something. All right. So people will be watching that. The market will be watching. If you're not watching, somebody else will. And these are big money people. They want to see directionally where the Fed is headed. I truly believe that Jerome Powell should just probably peace out, but he's going to run the clock on Trump, right? And if Trump is not aggressive enough, he's not going to have enough time to impact the market through fiscal policy right on time before the midterms. As you guys know, the U.S. If you follow the U.S. election cycles, usually early voting starts around August and September, between late September, I believe. So if you look at the numbers and you look at the point I just made about Jerome Powell maybe indirectly running the clock on Trump on the side of the fiscal policy, then your only hope is that Scott Bessent and the rest of the Fed guys have figured out an alternative to inject liquidity in the market. Now, the reason I'm saying this is when I was reading Arthur Hayes' essay recently, he made some really convincing argument on near term what he sees the market doing from here. And I'm saying this out loud so people can, again, we're all different investors here. You know, some people are maxis, some people are just traders, some people are here just to play around, right? But they have, 50-50 foot in, foot out. So it just depends on who you are. Know who you are and not take all the information to inform your decision. But what Arthur Hayes, he had a graph where he showed the correlation of liquidity with Bitcoin. And it went back dated from 2019 to 2025. What is interesting, and as I was listening to T talk about the whole timing thing, in that essay, I think Arthur Hayes said between March and November of 2020, the liquidity index that he has, because he created his own liquidity index, and he said it was going at about 120%, right? It went up about 120%. And at that time, Bitcoin price moved from 3,800 to 69K. So in his view, there's a perfect lead there in terms of the liquidity index signal. And then he talked about November 2021, between November 2021 and June 2022. Everybody who's been here 5 years knows what happened in 2022. Janet Yellen stepped in the bank term funding program after Silicon Valley and First Republic and all the banks started blowing up, right? So between this November 2021 and 2022, we had QT plus rate hikes, if you guys remember. And his liquidity index at the point showed minus 28%. In terms of correlation, Bitcoin price went from 69K to 17K. Everybody knows the FTX crap and all that. You could say it's perfect timing or coincidence or some black swan, whatever it is. This is an aggregate. You're using statistics to see what it's telling you, right? The last one that is interesting and matches the conversation we're having right now is his index also mapped out from October 2022 to March 2025. What happened between then? There was a pause and there's a new QE, whatever you call it, right? The liquidity index at the point showed a 45% positive. You know what happened to Bitcoin? We went from 17K to 125K. So again, what I'm saying here is there is usually this correlation. And what he said also is that his liquidity index, and this is his kind of a dashboard that tells him if the index is rising between 8 to 10% quarter over quarter, Bitcoin and risk asset usually rips. Okay. And he's not just spitting this out like some smoke. He has some data to back it. He also said if that liquidity index starts to drop between 8 to 10% below that quarter over quarter, then there's usually a credit event. Why am I saying this? In his essay, he's saying that he's predicting that there is a possible credit event. And I'm reading, different memos from Mark Howards, who's, his name is Howard Marks. He's the founder and CEO of Oak Tree Capital. I've read his recent memo on the private credit situation. I've also read some signals from Jamie Dimon about private credit. He talks about cockroaches. And then I had another guy, Jeffrey Gundlach. I read his stuff, and he's a macro bond guy. He's also raising some alarm clock. So that all of it all together makes me want to align with what Arthur Hayes is seeing. Now, in the short term, if you're in the market, like what T was talking about, this is a buying opportunity. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm just a random guy. Okay. I'm just saying that when you see the fear that we're in right now, and you know what else could come, right? I mean, I was just looking at the GDP now app, and I'm seeing the Atlanta Fed is revising their GDP numbers to 4.2%. What is that about, right? Because they're looking at all of these AI stuff and they're thinking about what's coming. Anybody at this point that believes that Trump is just going to sit there and watch the market literally get drawn down, okay, into the midterms, I don't know what you're smoking, because this has happened many times. So right now, where you're seeing the market literally depressed, it is a huge opportunity, and smart money knows it, and they're going all in on it. Now, and the final thing I would say, and I'll give it to Matt, is this: I am bullish the market. Now, after the midterms, I don't know what to say or not. But before the midterms, I'm not making any mistake at all to get out of this market. The reason I can do that, and I know some of you have this, I have something that I'm good at that I'm monetizing, okay, which is my professional work, okay? So I'm not like, crypto has to go up right now for me to somehow take care of my family. That's not a problem. A crypto is option, okay? I'm investing long term. I can weather the storm. I can figure out, you can find something too, but do not mistake the short-term volatility. I mean, I was looking at bouncing the VIX vol, which is the implied volatility for the VIX versus Bitcoin. We still have a lot of time before Bitcoin's vol actually drops, okay? And somebody is milking it right now. The final comment I'll make is this. Arthur Hayes actually made a point, and I don't usually like to make conspiracy statements, but the more I dug into it, I was a little bit concerned when it came to Bitcoin. You guys know the Silk Road seizure, right, of Bitcoin, and then the Bitfinex seizure. A lot so far to this point, a lot of us reference the Bitcoin strategic reserve to that stack of Bitcoin that the government has. I've followed that case a lot. I know it's still hanging in there, but I just found out there is this mining company, Bitcoin miner. In fact, in 2020, they were they were the top 6 miner in the Bitcoin ecosystem. And they were controlling about nearly 1% of the hash rate of Bitcoin. And what the name of that miner is Lubian. Okay. I don't know why most people are not talking about this, but the more I dug into it, I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know if the government is doing something, but the Chinese government literally deployed all of their resources to investigate this, and they put out a report. Now, the DOJ, and I don't know if you guys found this, but the DOJ literally just sent out, they released, they were going after the Chinese founder who actually owns this miner. It's called Lubian. Look it up. They had a hack, and the hack happened 4 years today, okay? 127,000 Bitcoin, which is now about $13 billion, right, was hacked. The interesting thing, and the reason why I'm saying conspiracy, is that somehow the Chinese, they have the cyber department that did this research, by the way, and then put it out and said the US intelligence department or whatever went after this. They actually did the hack, and they proved it, because when the 127,000 Bitcoin was moved, if for all of us that know about hacking, when somebody hacks something, they try to move it, right? They siphon it through, all the mixes and stuff. But this money, this Bitcoin, literally moved and didn't move around for 4 years. And then all of a sudden, when the DOJ released their prosecution or whatever against the CEO, then it moved. I think Arkham Intelligence did some reporting on this. Zach, this is a big deal, but it's under the radar and people are not talking about it. And I know I'm, maybe overhyping this, but I want you guys to know that Bitcoin, between China and the United States, this asset class is a huge deal. And if you're seeing prices right now at where we're at and you're not buying it, that's on you, right? This case, I don't know why people are not talking about it, but what I've dug into and what I learned so far freaked me out. Okay, because I believe, and I don't know why the U.S. government would have done that, but they've not taken custody of that 127,000 Bitcoin, and the Chinese government is trying to fight this in court, and they've proved that the U.S. government and the intelligence agency were behind this move. But this is all going on, and we're all getting misdirected by Epstein files and what crap and what nonsense. And there's some really important things being moved underneath. By the way, all I'm saying is I'm bullish Bitcoin, okay, long term, okay, and I'm also bullish this market until after the midterms. That's it. Until then, whatever is happening right now to me is noise.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, Mustache. Like I feel like ultimately when the market is rallying up, the level of euphoria that comes across the social media spaces, it's something that you should ignore. But when the market is dumping, that's when as an investor you should be paying attention, right? It's the rally should be you counting your P&L or watching your P&L go. And the stronger the noise around the rally gets, right, the more you know it's time to get out, right? I think a lot of people learn the markets the opposite of how they should be learned. I know I did, right? Like when I first started, I tried to find the noise, right? I wanted to know what everybody was investing in, right? And I wanted to buy the top, or I just wanted to be in it, right? And honestly, the average investor, right? Not to knock anybody in this space, but I'm just speaking on like the average investor is very ignorant. That is the reason why price can continuously do the things that it does, because the average person isn't buying because of a fundamental reason or a technical reason. Especially in 2025 post COVID, most of the investors in retail, they're buying because somebody told them to, right? They're buying because they see it going up. They're not buying with any level of analysis whatsoever, regardless of what your level of analysis is, what it is you're looking to use to execute, whether it be shout out to XT Algo, right? Indicator, right? Whether it be supply and demand trader, whether it be ICT trader, whatever it is, you're using some level of knowledge outside of the noise of social media to make an informed decision. And that's all you can do as a trader or investor. I just encourage everybody in this space to educate yourselves, right? Whether you're following Zach, you're following some of the people on this panel, myself will probably start to become a little bit more active as the market starts to pull back. Whoever you're following, like pick their brain on how they analyze price, right? So that you can get a better informed decision. Because to be honest, investing is the easiest trading you could ever do, right? I'm a day trader, so efficiency is kind of like my thing. I got to be in here, out here to make my money, right? As an investor, you need to look at the bigger picture and find out where is the best place to buy long term, right? And you're never really out unless you just close the trade. So as long as you're investing in something strong as Bitcoin, right? Like just understand Bitcoin is no longer an idea, right? It is officially going to be a part of the history of the United States of America wherever we go with it, right? Bitcoin, wherever crypto goes, Bitcoin will be a part of that conversation. So you know that the strength is there. So just, like I said, educate yourself and start understanding where those opportunities to buy and make real money in the market is.
Hobbs, I think one of the things you said, and I think Mutasco, you kind of mentioned this, and I've even kind of reiterated this in different ways too. It's you really do need to like ask yourself, and this could be dependent on which asset you're talking about, right? Are you a trader or are you an investor? Like for me, Bitcoin is a long-term investment. It's the only asset in crypto that I want to accumulate DCA, and also bulk buy when the sentiment's really low for the next decade, right? Other than that, every single other altcoin out there to me, and I know I've said this many times in this space, is a trade. It could be a day trade, it could be a week trade, it could be a 3 to 6 month trade, it could be a cycle trade, right? But it's a trade. And this answer, like when you actually clearly define what it is you're trying to do with every asset that you own, this determines your entire approach. This dictates your entire approach in terms of what you're doing. So, I mean, people don't do this though. They just get into things because they saw it or they heard about it. Let me just get in here, and then what's your plan? What's your goal, right? And I think that's really, really important. Really, really important for everybody to understand, like what it is you're trying to do. Same thing in the stock market. You could trade, a biotech stock or whatever, but like, what's your plan with Apple? Like, what's your plan with the S&P 500? For me, that's a long-term game, right? Like, but yeah, if I see something, an opportunity, like I talked about GE Vernova earlier this year, that's been one of the best trades I've made all year. It's not been in crypto, but I got a buddy who works for the company. It's a sister company to General Electric. I mean, that's been one of the best performing stocks in my portfolio. And I've snipped off it. I've taken some profits. Now I'm turning it into a long-term investment after I've won the trade. That was my goal all along with it. I had a little bit of intel. This is the guy who's high up in the organization, says, man, we are stacking up projects. I'm telling you, you might want to buy this stock. Okay. I looked into it, made a play on it, won the trade. Now it's turned into, a long-term investment for me from here on out. Right. So yeah, I think that's really important. I mean, it's something we don't talk about enough.
Zach,
Yeah, man.
real quick, man. One of the biggest mistakes I've made, and you touched the point, is when I'm a swing trader. I'm not. I couldn't day trade for shit. I probably would have been dead already. But I like to take care of my health. In other words, I don't know how day traders do it. I like to swing trade, but I'm more of a long-term holder, an investor, and that's when I realized that I made a mistake being a long-term holder in many of these altcoins. I think that like Ethereum, Bitcoin, and even Solana you could take these coins 5, 10. You could hold them maybe 5, 10 more years. You know, uh, and after that, I'll still say Bitcoin is the one that could go further than that. And I made that mistake, and that's when I decided to make a decision that I never imagined I would after doing my homework. I'm like, you know what? You're a long-term holder, man. It's time for you to give a chance, because the first time I gave the stock market TradFi a chance, it was for trading, and it wasn't for me, And I like trading more in crypto, and I got in super early in Robinhood on the $10, and I had an opportunity to move some money into TradFi. I bought AMD. I bought Iron around $12. Uh, and I had an opportunity where now my health is better because I could sleep better at night holding these long term, because that's what I like to do. I like to hold things long term. And it's what the individual said. Trading, you have these things that you got to study, and when it comes to holding long term, you got to go deeper in the rabbit hole, not studying the chart, studying the company. And that's the opportunity that you don't have so much in crypto that you do have in the stock market. An individual could tell you, hey, buy this. And it's what he said. If they're not educated, they don't have the fundamentals, you're just another idiot just like him, holding something that you don't even know what you're holding, when to get out, or if it goes to zero. And I was able to find, Iron through Mike Alfred. I mean, do your homework on that guy. That guy's a beast. And yeah, man, and that's just building my network. And it's one of the best decisions I've made, was to move a lot of my old holdings. I never imagined I would jump out of Kaspa, man. I thought Kaspa, and I could be wrong, these things could be long-term holdings, but right now they're not proving to be. Right now, the almighty, it's just Bitcoin. It's just proving to be the one that you could sleep on. And even though I feel good about Solana and Ethereum, man, you know. And I do my swing trades, man. You saw me. I sent you a message the other day. Hey, I like this price point of this. I love doing my swing trades, man. But yeah, man. But I'm more of a long-term holder. And
I see our trades up 25% today, bro. I know.
Yeah. Dude, I there's that asset, bro. I mean, it's always been a winner for me, so why not stick to a winner? You know what I'm saying? And it's nothing huge, Not
Well, you
huge
know the
money.
chart, right?
Yeah,
Like
I know.
you know the chart.
And not only the chart, I know the community. I know how they act. I know the team when they're cooking something. I think they're gonna list on Crypto.com. I think they're saying about a tier one. I think they're gonna go to Crypto.com because they have a partnership with them in the NFT. Confirmed partnership with Crypto.com. So that might be their U.S. listing. I would love to see that. And I know them. They've been grinding since 21, man. I like these OG projects, and they're bringing in. The crazy thing is, they are bringing in revenue outside of crypto, but they're nothing compared to a company, man. But if you guys, I know the gentleman here, he's a trader, but man, if you haven't had a chance and you do hold also long term, look at this company, Iron Man, sitting at $13 billion market cap, and it's a beast, man. I think this thing could easily go to 100 billion.
Hey,
But,
Mar,
yeah,
I'm a financial specialist, is what I would say.
yeah,
Meaning,
yeah,
there is nothing that I won't look at. Right? I don't discriminate in any, in any fashion. It was just for me. I took a step back. I used to actually have a crypto channel on YouTube called the Crypto Shop. I recently changed the name to the Trader Shop, and I don't post or go live as much as I used to because I stopped doing crypto because I wanted to get a better understanding of like how markets work in general. So I took like 2 years off to just really focus on the craft of trading. That's why I speak about trading a lot because I do it every single morning. But there was something that you and Zach said that I wanted to address as well, which was or piggyback on, which was having a plan, right? Like every single morning inside of my Discord, I have a Discord. I won't shill it here or nothing like that, but uh every single morning at 7:30, 6:30 in the morning, whatever, I come in and I give the market what I'm planning on trading. Right? I make sure that I know the current conditions, right? I know whether or not we're consolidating, we're uptrending, or we're downtrending, right? Once I decide the current conditions, then I understand what we need to trade above to remain bullish, what we need to trade below to start to become bearish, right? Essentially, I'm defining my dealing range for the day, right? From there, I give a macro view of how I view price and where it could potentially go, essentially my hypothesis, right? From there, I define the exact levels that I'm looking to buy, the exact levels where I'm looking to sell, and where I would like to take price to when I buy and sell. Like I do that an hour to 2 hours before the market opens. Every Sunday, I look at the market from a 3 month perspective down to the 4 hour, and I define where I anticipate price going from a percentage gain point based off data, right? Where I anticipate the market going plus or minus percentage wise and where it should be bouncing from. Then I go back and I review that data at the end of every single week. And I just, I keep a log of how accurate my data is so I can continuously trust or tweak my data. A lot of people think that trading is just or investing or trading is just something that you just pick up, right? You eventually get better. No, there is no business, there is no subject on this planet that you can get better at just by continuously showing up, right? Yeah, you'll pick up a few things, but you got to do the freaking work to be an investor. You got to do the freaking work to be a trader, right? You guys are mentioning these companies. You didn't come across them because you got lucky. Sure, there was an additional ad that you got a friend in this company like Zach, right? Or somebody who had already invested like, Mar. But the reality is the person that's putting the money up is the person that's going to reap the benefits. So before you put your money up, if you just ran and threw that money at the wall to see if it sticked, you got a problem. Now you're a gambler, right? That's a different type. Nobody's a gambler that looks into the statements, the financial statements of a company. Nobody's a gambler that looks at the technical analysis of that company's chart and defines where they believe price can go. You're not a gambler if you can say objectively where my trade is invalidated, right? And be able to accept the fact that you were wrong. That's not gambling. That's taking a educated guess, right? And turning it into real value for yourself via the departments of the financial sector. See, where people get it twisted when it comes to investing and trading, right? Either when you're involved is they think that we're guessing. That's genuinely what people think. When I talk to my mom, when I talk to, anybody that doesn't technically day trade, they all say the same thing. It wasn't for me, right? It wasn't my thing. And I'm like, hey, that's cool. But now that you're investing, what's your plan? The ones that are still losing money in investing, they don't have a plan. You know what they say to me? Well, I saw this guy on TikTok, right? I saw this YouTube short where they were talking about this token. What do you think of it? It's like, why do you want my opinion when you're the person putting the money up? The idea that you can gamble is true. But because there's always going to be gamblers, there's always going to be profitable traders and profitable investors because the gamblers will continue to show up for what they believe is a casino, which if you understand technical and fundamental analysis, right? Without a shadow of a doubt, I know, right? With data backing my trades, I know without a shadow of a doubt, this market is very, very predictable. As a human, you will still make mistakes and lose. But if you continuously have a system that you're working into and you back test that system with your own data, you know that this market is very predictable. So I just wanted to add on to that.
Couldn't agree more. Matt, what's going on, man? What's happening?
My screensaver turned on. So the guy that was just speaking, I have a legit question for you. Do you think, or you could say, you're pretty sure, do you think that these markets are 100% controlled by supercomputers?
Is that the question? That's the end of it? I
Yeah.
need to let you finish. No, I don't. I think here's what I think. I think that the market is very it has levels to it, right? And I think that there are multiple levels that have algorithms programmed in them, right? And I think if you look up like the definition of an algorithm, right? Like in order to create an algorithm, you have to be able to have a math equation, right? Inside of a math equation, right, you have to have, in order for that equation to be balanced, it has to have a constant, right? And I believe that in the markets, it is built on an algorithm that was originally built on an equation that had multiple variables in it, one of them being human behavior, right? So if you study human behavior long enough, you can actually put an algorithm to it, right? But when you build an algorithm, you still have to have a constant. And that's why I believe that we talk about these 4-year cycles. We talk about times of day. Like I'm a day trader that trades time-based ranges, right? So the constant in any equation, everything can be changed in the market, right? So volume will vary, right? The amount of participants will vary every single day, right? The ebbs and flows, the news, all of these are variables that we really can't control. But what's the one thing that doesn't change every single day? That is a constant. That constant is time, right? So time is the only thing that you can't F with, right? That you can build an algorithm around, right? So that's why I trade time-based ranges and I understand how time is calculated inside the movement of price. And I believe that that aspect of trading has been programmed into some level of supercomputer, as you will.
Got it. And perfect when you said time. I was like, please say time, please say time, please say time. Otherwise, I was going to throw a giant, penalty flag on you. But you said time.
Yeah.
And that's very that's basically that's everything right there.
Yeah.
Time. It's everything. Literally. Like
I teach about time and price alignment, right? Whether it be higher time frame, whether it be smaller time frame, down to every hourly candle, right? Like if you trade people that trade ICT, right? I'm not an ICT trader, but I understand the concepts, right? But people that trade those concepts, right? The concept of macro time, right? The last 20 minutes of the last 10 minutes of an hour candle and the first 10 minutes of the opening candle. They call that a macro time frame, right? Why does that work every day? Right? Because the idea behind that is that's the area in which liquidity is being introduced into the price. And it makes sense from a behavioral standpoint, because if you've ever watched Meet Kevin, I mean, he's pretty popular, right? He used to work on the floor, and he's spoken about when big money comes into the market, they come in at the open and closing times, right? Whether it be opening of the day, close of the day, right? But that liquidity that they introduce is also being introduced into the markets at opening and closing times. Well, what do we have every hour? We have an opening of an hour candle, we have a close of an hour candle. Look no further than in the top left corner of your trading view screen where it says OHLC, right? Candles open, they make a high or a low, and then they close at that high or low, right? That's how you can determine where the open, where the close, and where the high and low should be. So yes, all of that, in my opinion, is 1000% based on time, and then volume is a product of when we hit certain levels, right? So we get to this level at a certain time, it taps into this level of liquidity that creates a level of volume. So
Perfect. Perfect. That's that's something that I never really thought about, is the hourly candles. I don't pay too much attention to those, but that's not what I was coming up here to say. But perfect, man. Perfect explanation. I'm glad you joined in. And you know, like one of the things I always like to point out that other people say is Mutasco said he doesn't fall for the bright. Okay, so I'll repeat. I got a phone call that interrupted me. So Mutasco said he doesn't fall for the bright, shiny objects, right? Like and that's what we all should strive to not fall for, is the next new bright, shiny object, because they have to keep us in constant fear, whether it's the Wall Street trader, the banks, whatever. So they keep us in constant fear and keep us on our toes and keep us guessing. Nobody needs crypto, but everybody wants to make $1 million. So they know they have a bunch of us degens in here that are trying to make as much money, from the comfort of our own homes, and the easiest way possible, right? I mean, I could go out and build houses and make, $40-50 an hour, but my time is probably, arguably, I don't really want to judge my time. We put a real cap on our time. I mean, it's priceless, right? Like, it's worth $1 trillion for a lifetime if you put a monetary value on it. Well, then again, would I have more fun out on my boat, wakeboarding at the age of 50, and enjoying myself? So it's like, no, that's worth more than money. That's worth more than $500 an hour or $1,000 an hour. So depending on how everybody bases their worth, their own self-worth, and their own goals, like we want to make, I just keep it simple. I want to make $1 million in crypto by 2030. All right. And I have a specific reason for 2030, and I'm not rambling. Trust me. I promise I'm going to get somewhere with this. I always come back to 2030 because I've read Agenda 2030 at least twice, and it's huge. But I skim through the bullet points almost daily on Agenda 2030. Then I go compare it to what they're announcing on mainstream media, right? Because they're not going to give this to us on a crypto space. So I go into the mainstream media and I scan it, and I say, oh, okay, they're surrounding Taiwan. That's okay, that's, page 112, chapter 4, like it's scripted perfectly, and they are following their timeline perfectly. So I always go off of 2030. Not necessarily the cycles, although the cycles are like my hopium that I'm smoking every day in a water bong, right? So like I hope it's a 4-year cycle. It obviously looks like the 4-year cycle theory has completely collapsed on us. That could just about be out the window, unless they blow this thing up in November still, which they have like 2 weeks left. And then, then the cycle's still there. But we only have 2 weeks left to prove it. So what I'm saying is, as far as the timelines go and making that $1 million, when people are in crypto, they're looking for the easiest way out, right? Because we know eventually the Federal Reserve is going to inject just trillions and trillions of dollars into this space. And all we want to do is shave off a little piece of that. And that's going to be enough for life-changing gains for us. And I could probably speak for most of the people here when I say that, right? I'm not out to make $1 trillion, but I'd like to make, several 100,000 or even $1 million. So a realistic amount. And then, the FUD of that is when you see these accounts, these people that are already billionaires and they have their bot account set up and they say, if you think $1 million is enough, you're crazy. Well, you know what? $1 million is like $1 million more than I have right now. Let's just say that. Okay. So that's still $1 million, right? $100,000 is still $100,000. If $100,000 doesn't change your life, you don't need to be in crypto, because you already have, your 100 acres spread, your mansion's all paid, your cars are paid, your 401k is flush, everything looks good. You found it. You don't need to be in crypto. So there's so much BS in crypto that sometimes it's hard to cut through. I read a lot of these accounts on different media, on different apps, and they say, oh, $1 million, if that's all you're asking for, that's you're never going to make it. And I'm like, okay, I want $4 million for my lake property. Write that check, and then I'll just go retire. And then, you know what? 100% of those people will never write that check. Because they're full of shit. Like most people are full of shit. That's why you got to find the right space to listen to the right people, right? So when people are talking and mentioning things like, hey, time is the most valuable asset out there next to your life, I mean, your life, your time, how are you going to put a price tag on that? Simple. By Agenda 2030, I would take $100, go into crypto, and start looking at which ones they're going to use first. Now, remember, we don't need crypto. We want crypto to make money. We don't need it. I mean, we don't need it to live our lives. And even if we do, they're going to use it without us knowing it anyways, like ISO coins, right? Like the banks and their back channel stuff. So the whole thing, it is smoke and mirrors. In this Bitcoin thing, I don't buy Bitcoin. I don't mess with Bitcoin. It's the market cap is too big. It could crash. You know what? Whether it's going to crash or go to the moon, I don't know, but I'm not going to be a part of it. So to me, it's irrelevant, but it's the foundation of crypto. So I still have to pay attention to it, even though I'm not going to put $1 into it ever in my life. So when I'm looking for a crypto that's going to be used by retail, the normies aren't going to know it's going to be used. I come back to the ISO coins, the altcoins, XRP, Ethereum, Hedera, Avalanche, real world asset coins, tokenized coins, banking coins. And it's pretty simple to see, like you said, Hobbs, it's pretty simple to see if crypto's not going to zero, then where's it going? It's going to be with us for the entire future, for the rest of our lives. Crypto is here to stay. It's proven it's here to stay. Now, I'm not talking about meme coins or shit coins or startups at this point. I'm talking about like Bitcoin in the top 100. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere, and it's certainly not going to zero. So by that in itself, if we just stepped back and realized it's going to go up, even though it's going to have their obstacles, it's going to have FUD, it's going to have mainstream issues, it's going to be hard to onboard the normies and the retail. That doesn't matter. These people that are in charge of this stuff, whether they're a supercomputer, AI, or actual people, or lizards, whatever we think they are, no matter what happens, it's not going away. It's going to be with us for the rest of our lives, and it's going to continue to go up. So right now, in a short term, it might look like we're bleeding, but all they're doing, and I'll stick by this the whole time, is they're giving their buddies a buying opportunity. That way, in the future, their buddies can say, I bought Bitcoin when it was $89,300. You know, I got it at 101. It's it. It's going to be $1 million one day, probably in my lifetime. And I'm already 50 years old. So like, or pretty close to 50. So if I have 25, 30 more years left, it's going to 10X.
So Matt, by that logic though, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you play the altcoin market and take your altcoin profits and put it into Bitcoin?
I want to spend my money and not die at 79 years old, a complete, like a 10, like a and have $10 million in my account. What am I going to do? Buy a $10 million coffin? No, I like living life. And it's, dude, in the summer, I'm on the boat. I'm on the lake. I'm wakeboarding, man. I'm the only 50-year-old guy out there, and I'm not 50 yet, but I'm the oldest guy out there on a wake. And people are like, what the fuck is this old guy doing out here? I'm like, what up, bitches? Here to do some 360s. You know, I have yet to do a backflip, but without breaking my neck. But it's life, dude. I live life. And here's Zach, this is the point I was getting to. So if with all this information, with all this data about crypto, it's not going to zero, so it's going to $1 million. Bitcoin's here to stay. The top 100 are here to stay. If it's not in the top 100, I can't really speak for it. It's a hardcore gamble. It's a casino. But if that's the case, and I was like 20 years old again, a fresh recruit and still probably a private in the Army, I would live in the barracks or live in my parents' basement, and every dollar I earned, I would throw that shit into Bitcoin on down. Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, Binance, just like the top 10. And I would stack as hard as I could, because here's why. It's not that 25 years is a long time to some people. To me, it's not really that long. 25, 30 years. It seems like it's coming quicker than my first 50 years. But if you're young and you want to become a absolute 100% millionaire, not financial advice, there's the easiest way to do it is not becoming a social media influencer or working for somebody else, because you'll never become wealthy working for somebody else. You have to work for yourself. That is financial advice. Is crypto. It's the last opportunity we will ever have to make an absolute crap load of money, because they're getting rid of cash. They got rid of the penny last week. The
Wave. It's blockchain / crypto, AI, robotics. So I think you can, I mean, hell, look at the stock market this year. I mean, if you invested in the right AI plays and some of the new tech plays, I mean, they're moving more than your altcoins are right now. So I would put all of that stuff together personally. And that to me is the playbook for generational wealth from the investing side, right? And yeah, I mean, to your point too, like, you got to create a business, because nobody's ever going to pay you the amount of money you want to be paid other than yourself.
nobody's going to pay you what you're worth but yourself. Nobody's going to pay you what you're worth but yourself, because
you're always going to have a cap on you, for sure.
Yeah. You can't, you working for somebody else, man. That's why I retired a second time.
They're not going to let you make more than the CEO.
Oh, dude, I retired the second time because when I made pretty good money at my retail job in banking, and they literally were like, whoa. I got called in because I made a lot of money one year, and they're like, what's going on here? And I said, well, what? I'm just talking to people. They're buying. Well, hey, all these other guys, they're mad at you. They're mad because you're making the guy that's been here for 25 years look like a buffoon. So even being successful, you're met with hostility. So it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And I was like, you know what? I don't.
They
even
want to
need
see
this.
you do well, Matt. They want to see you do well, just not better than them.
Exactly. So
They want
that's
to see
one
you do
opportunity.
well, just
and
don't
it's
do
crypto.
better than me.
Yeah, and this is the last place
Don't make me
believe
look
we have.
bad in this organization, but do well.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. In time, that's why I go back to a 20-year-old person. I give them as an example, because in 20 years, in one more generation, it's going to be crypto will be fully 100% integrated and adopted into our daily life. Cash will be completely gone, and you will be literally a crypto millionaire. 20 years sounds like a long time to a 20-year-old, but you know what? It'll be here real quick, and it's the easiest way you're going to make it. And that's all I got for today.
I love it, man. Always love you coming in, bringing the energy. I am going to close up shop in a few, but I do want to get to the last few people here. I seen Coach with his hand up, and then Memzino, I'll hop over to you, and I'll let Mutasco get in here as well before we close up shop. But real quick before Coach jumps in, just want to say thank you to everybody listening in. Make sure you're following all the speakers up here. We are here Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, every single day. We've been doing it for almost 2 years now. For about 2 hours every single Monday through Friday. So appreciate you guys for being here. And yeah, follow all the speakers up here. Follow the Crypto Breakfast Club main page too. It's in my account. It's not up here because I got paid in Argentina right now, DevCon, doing the thing over there. So, but yeah, Coach, go ahead, man. What do you got?
Good morning. Good stuff as always. Tax planning stuff. So these are times where maybe you could, if you have it, set up a Bitcoin IRA, maybe a time that you can look at that. Obviously you can take $7,000 of gains that you can roll into your IRA. Something I did the other day. I did sell a piece of Bitcoin for 1065, and now I can take the profit and roll it into the IRA. Obviously, Zach, I know you're doing the SEP or whichever one you're doing. You can do up to $70,000. So, for you guys that have long term and even short term, we all believe that Bitcoin's not going away, right? We may have a down cycle here. It looks like it to me. So, here you could actually, not financial advice, DCA until April. So if we are in a down market, then you could have a pretty decent cost basis in your IRA and then grow tax deferred for however many years you got left till you could start pulling. So that's just something I wanted to revisit today for people to think about. I am in the tax planning mode at this point of the year. It's interesting, Zach, you had mentioned an energy stock play, and that's something I've been looking at here over the past few days. But
Coach, you still there? I don't know if we lost you there. Might be losing you, Coach. See if he comes back with us.
Yeah, I can't
But,
hear him at all.
Yeah, I think he's fading out. That's the one thing with X Spaces sometimes. But hey, as Coach mentioned that I am partnered up with iTrust Capital. They're the largest U.S. self-directed digital asset IRA tech and service provider. Been with them since 2021. So if you guys are looking for a hub for that, I did personally go ahead and move a little bit of Bitcoin over there. I like to keep my Bitcoin diversified across cold storage, a little bit in an IRA, and I keep a little bit on Coinbase as well. That's fully liquid. Most of it in cold storage, but I like to diversify it out just in case anything happens. So if you are looking for a spot, they got all kind of assets over there at iTrust. Coach, you back?
yeah, sorry about that. It just Twitter bugs out sometimes. So you had mentioned you had a nice energy play, and I am looking
GE
somewhere
Vernova,
there.
baby. GE
Yeah, what
Vernova.
Vernova?
Yeah, it's ticker GEV.
GEV. Okay, I
Yeah,
did write it down.
that's been a banger for me this year, man.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. I mean, you've got these AI data centers, you've got Amazon building data centers, you've got, those type of things. And for me personally, I'm right now I'm looking at different energy stocks because they generally pay dividends as well. So I can have that passive income check come in to live off of. Not financial advice, of course, but that's one of the sectors I'm looking at. I noticed that Buffett put a chunk into Google the other day, might have been yesterday. So, or we'll say Berkshire. So, you know, it looked like maybe he's made a little bit of move with some of that capital he had on the side. Anyway, the main thing I wanted just, you know, to mention is for you got, you know, whoever's in here, you know, start looking at, and it's just a recommendation. I'm not a financial advisor, but look at IRAs, or SEPs or whatever it may be, because if you're in a down market, then you can DCA at a good price. And, you know, then when you get up to age 65, 59 and a half, when you can take out one, without the 10% penalty, good way to grow, compound, whatever you want to call it, over time. So this is, and again, because we have until April, you know, to count for 2005 fiscal year, you know, if this thing is in the correction, if you will, or the bear, then you could have some pretty good DCA cost bases that could, I mean, look, you know, 2030 Matt was mentioning that, you know, I mean, I'm also looking at the halving numbers, try to get an idea, you know, again, with the energy, what the miners are have to make. I think the next halving is 328,000 Bitcoin versus 656,250. So, you know, as that goes on, those mining companies are going to have to take the price up. So Bitcoin's not going away. It's, you know, it's going up. And if it's a year from now, if it's 3 years from now, whatever, you know, these down markets are good times to DCA, not financial advice. Thanks again for the mic.
Always, man. Yeah, we've had iTrust in here a few different times in the last few months too. I was actually just talking to them the other day. They're going to come back in and give us another rundown on some of their new products, and just talk about the advantages of, you know, opening up a crypto IRA, at least to have it in addition to other things you have, whether it's cold storage, hot wallets, cold wallets, if you do keep it on exchanges, what, you know. So yeah, that's good stuff. As always, man. Memzino, you've been waiting for a while, man. I don't think I've ever seen you in the space. Welcome. Glad you found us. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Zach? Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me up. I was just going to touch on a couple of the subjects you guys have been on to. First of all, I agree with Coke. The Bitcoin halving is a mathematical certainty. And obviously, all of the industries mining Bitcoin every 4 years, for all the hardware they have and all the electric they're paying for exactly the same amount of equipment and cost, they're only getting half of the BTC that they were mining previous cycle. So every 4 years, you know, the miners are only going to be getting half of the amount of BTC. So yeah, BTC, in my opinion, not financial advice, will always follow the 4 year cycles. However, the alts will not. And touching on what somebody was saying a minute ago in the space, all of the alts, including the top 100, historically, only a very small percentage of them actually survive and go on to make new all-time highs. So even the top 100 is very risky and very volatile. If you look at the top 100 charts, previous cycles, there's very few that obviously are outside the top 4, top 5 that have maintained position. So, you know, alts in general do not follow the BTC halving cycles. I think a better chart to look at, if you really want to know historically where all markets go, is the Benner cycle chart, if anybody knows it. That's BENNER, Benner cycle chart. And that will show you historically every crash and every peak in the markets. And it's very precise, very precise. And it's a very simple chart also to follow, you know. So yeah, as far as are the 4 year crypto cycles dead? No, they're not, and they never will be, but they're only for BTC. This is the confusion. They can manipulate the alts however they want, very easily because of obviously the small liquidity pools, small market caps, and stuff like that compared to Bitcoin, Ethereum, likes of XRP, and a few more in the top 5, 6 maybe. The rest are very easy to manipulate. So nobody ever knows when there's going to be an alt season. It will be at some point in a peak of a cycle, if they decide to rally the alts, which I'll be honest with you, the last real alt season that I saw was the 2017 cycle. That was when literally, pretty much any altcoin you was involved in would have made you 100 times your money. Very few failed. Even those that launched the scams ended up succeeding. It was so much money coming in from retail during the 2017 cycle, and they were all buying the alts, obviously, to make BTC. But yeah, that's what I really wanted to touch on.
Min, can I add something to what you're saying? Because real quick, sorry about the Motasco. I know you have your hand up. You know what? You are right. I always tell people to go to Google. You can find the option on CoinMarketCap, but on the regular mobile app, it's not there. But I always tell a lot of people that are coming to crypto, I always tell them, go to Google and search CMC, which is CoinMarketCap history. That's it. That's all you got to write. CoinMarketCap history.
Yeah.
You see from 2013 all the way to today, all the changes in the top 100. It's insane. But
yeah, that's insane.
You are right. But there is one thing, and I think Zach could follow this. A lot of these alts are getting major partnerships and deals with top companies right now, which I would be shocked if Solana is not here to stay with all the deals that they're getting. I think one of them was recently with Cash App, which was the difference of 2017 and 2021. And a lot of these altcoins are bringing in like really good revenue. So I think like I said, like Solana, maybe even though AVAX is doing like shit, they got partnerships too. So it's
yeah, you're right. In 2017, we didn't have real adoption at all, and the real adoption is coming in now, and it's going to be in the top. It's going to be in the top 10, 15 really for real adoption. But I think we're about to go into because we're coming into CBDCs, central banking digital currencies. For those of you that don't know what they are. Everything is going to be controlled, including Bitcoin, right? It's going to be programmable. So people have to forget about what the original Bitcoin code was, because it's not that anymore. And it's been taken away from that, every time the new code is applied and they vote on it. Like SegWit, for instance, so the original, like what we thought it was originally made for, we're so far away from that. So, it's not what it once was. And what the era we're about to go into now is, there's a war on privacy coins, because that's going to be the only thing that you're going to be able to use, that the authorities and the elite are not going to be able to take away from you with any excuse, So I think real privacy coins are going to rally. I would stay away from Zcash. It's literally owned by Israeli intelligence agencies. Stay well away from Zcash. But Monero is a real privacy coin, which is why it's been under attack. But I think we really need to start looking at real privacy coins that cannot be tracked and taken away from you at will. So yeah, and another one that I will add should be looked at, which there's great controversy over, and since launch it's still in the accumulation period, which is Pulse Chain, because it's registered under a private trust, so it cannot be touched by the authorities. There's a couple of big companies I know, a couple big groups. LPX was one of them that spent $70,000, in excess of $70,000. And one of the two partners is actually, a lawyer, and was going to some of the crypto meetings, the legal meetings in, I don't know if it was in San Fran or Washington, but they spent a lot of money to see if Pulse Chain was actually untouchable by the authorities. And if you look into it, that's an up and coming, going to be a privacy, quite, even though it's not what you would recognize to be a privacy protocol. They just can't touch it. But Monero is my number one in terms of privacy protocols. That's what I'd be looking into.
Menzino, one thing, I think that Ethereum has an update this December 4th, where I think gas fees are going to be much even more cheaper now. And he said something about bringing in some privacy into Ethereum on that update.
Okay.
So I haven't read into it. Maybe Butasco, that reads a lot, read into that, but it's a big update for Ethereum.
Yeah, we'll take a look. Thanks for having me up, Zach. That's pretty much all I want to say, unless anyone's got questions for me.
Yeah, Menzino, man, go, if you haven't in a long time, go to, like I said, go to Google and search that CoinMarketCap history. And anyone that has never done that, man, you would like be like, what the hell?
Yeah, bro.
I just put it up there, actually, guys. I just threw it up in the nest. I just posted it on my feed too. So historical snapshot,
historically,
December
0.1% survived.
December 17, 2017. It was Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, XRP, Litecoin, Cardano, IOTA, Dash, NEM, and Monero. That was your top 10. Now, one thing I noticed is no stable coins, and you've got 4 that are still there.
Yeah.
4 cryptos that were there, in 2017 are still there: Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and Cardano.
Yeah. Historically, that's all that really survives, about the 0.4. If you look at the total survival rate of all coins launched, man, it's ridiculous. It's like 0.0000001% of all coins launched actually survive. So if you're just taking a wild stab in the dark, it's a lottery ticket. You need to know what you're buying, and if you're going to even look into the alts.
I will say this.
At the top 100,
I will say this.
So very few survive.
All of those cryptos are still here, except I don't know what the hell NEM is. NEM. I don't know if that's still here or it's rebranded or something, but all these other ones are still here. Monero, Dash, IOTA. In fact, most of them are all still in the top 100. Monero, IOTA, Dash, Cardano, Litecoin, XRP, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Bitcoin. But yeah, I mean, this just proves the point. Like, I have no idea how this is all going to shake up when it comes to altcoins in the next 10 years. And this is why they're trades for me until proven otherwise.
So the thing is also, you got to look at those coins against Bitcoin, because if they're not outperforming Bitcoin, what's the point, right? Why wouldn't you just buy Bitcoin? So when you look at those, even the top 100 historically against Bitcoin, even those that have survived, man, they're so far. Even Ethereum, Bitcoin's leaving Ethereum. Like, Ethereum needs a real, like, the Bitcoin to ETH chart starting to look like wrecked, and that's like the second most powerful coin in the world. So when you compare these coins to Bitcoin, it's really bad. It's a lot worse than what you're looking at. And like I said, if they're not keeping up with BTC, it's like, what's the point?
Well, it's Menzino, though. It's all about timing, though, right? Like, I bought XRP at 50 cents and sold it at $3. That was a 6x. So, like, Bitcoin, you know what I mean? Like, in a 5-week stretch. So, I mean, it's all about timing with the altcoins. And then it allows you to stack more Bitcoin.
But also, if you look at what they do in between those cycles where things really take off, like, everything gets hacked. I'll give you an example. I had, like, back in the day, I had, like, a lot of Ethereum on Cryptsy before it got hacked. And Ethereum was cheap. I mean, ridiculously cheap. It launched in 2015 at $1. It went down to 60 cents, and then it started its rally from there. But like what they do in between like big cycles, when things are like, let's say there's going to be a huge alt season. You know, I hope it's not the same again. But you know, from what I saw, everything got hacked. Like every major exchange got hacked just before, you know, those major moves. So they do take a lot of it away from you, and very few of them actually go to court and the money gets recovered. And you know,
Menzino, real quick, BNB did outperform Bitcoin in this cycle so far.
yeah, BNB special. You know,
Yeah, I know. That's one of when I moved to TradFi, that's one of the ones that I did not have the balls to sell. I'm like, I'm gonna hold it because I'm betting on this billionaire. And when he got pardoned, I was like, oh man, I'm so glad I never sold BNB. But BNB for me is the coin, and you know the crazy thing is, for me, it's the coin of the cycle, and it's the least coin that people talk about. Like we aren't even talking about BNB in this conversation. It's crazy.
It's true. Does anyone know if CZ has been put back in charge of Binance as CEO, or is he still? Is it still
No, he's not.
He's the largest holder, so he's got a lot of.
So when they replaced CZ with a member of the World Economic Forum, I forget the guy's name. That's when I kind of thought, okay, you know, BNB's had its run. Now I know he's been pardoned, and believe me, CZ was the only man in crypto that I trusted until quite recently, last few years. There is someone else, but CZ was the only person in crypto that I trusted, literally. And you know, I think he's done so much for crypto, for retail, in crypto in general. Like no other company, corporation, or institution has done what he's done for retail. He's got a lot of retail into Bitcoin very early on, and he stayed faithful to his own project, and he's put a lot of profits back into BNB, which is what they tried to sue him for, obviously, for price manipulation. But that's what I think every founder should be doing, putting their profits, especially when you've got a platform like Binance turning over in some cycles more money than Amazon. You should be pumping that chart. You should be buying your supply and doing something with it, you know.
BNB was $10 short from being the only asset of the blue chips, you know, in the top 15, top 20 from 21 to do a 2x. $10 short, man.
Yeah, BNB's performed incredibly well. I remember in the 2017 cycle, it hadn't long been launched. I don't know if it was 2016 or 2017, but we was in a project called Stratus, and it was doing incredibly well. It hit a $2.3 billion market cap, which you know, during that cycle was huge. And it was in the top 10. I think it even made it into the top 5 very shortly. I think it was number 5 for a short period of time. But we'd done incredibly well on that. And I remember saying to, I had a lot of crypto groups, and I remember saying to everyone, you know, maybe we should move some of this over into BNB, and it was 15 cents at the time. Like, you know, I did buy some, but you know, nowhere near what I should have, because we've never seen those prices, and we'll never see those prices ever again. It's $1,000 coin. It's incredible. But yeah, 2017, I think you could have got it 15 cents still.
I was buying BNB at 34 cents when they pulled out of the U.S. I pulled out my charts. I was looking at my 2017 trades, and it's interesting that you guys just posted that up there. Those were the things that I was trading so heavily: Monero, Litecoin, and a few that. And what I'm looking at is, hey, if they're going to revive Zcash, you know, let me go look at some of these 2017 OG coins and see if they're going to roll into some of these things. So
yeah,
just doing some digging.
one of the things I really liked that CZ did, he was thrown out of Canada and he was thrown out of the US for not giving up our data. And that's one of the reasons I really trust him. Every other exchange, major exchange, just gave up our data as soon as they were demanded, but he didn't. And yeah, like I've got a lot of love for CZ. I have to say, since day one, a lot of love.
Mutasco, go ahead, man. I know you've been waiting.
No, great space, Zach. As always, I was gonna just comment when you were talking about GE Vernova. I did a PEGI ratio analysis, and usually for anybody who doesn't know, a PEGI ratio is just price to earnings and growth and yield and all that. It just kind of for the Wall Street stocks, you wanna before you buy, you have to look whether it's undervalued or overvalued. It's just my own way of just looking at stuff before I throw money at it. But interestingly enough, I did watch, and I think I heard Mara talk about Irene. Mike Alfred, the thing I like about him is he has skin in the game and he's not afraid to share that information out publicly, whether wins or lose. And I like that and I respect that. And one of the things that I think it's interesting, this was the time that the Bitcoin miners were like hyped up on spaces here. And I hung out there, listened to them rant about it. And Irene was trading at $9 and even below that. I regret not buying it because it was all in front of me and I could have made that trade. I didn't, but one of the things that you said about G Vernova, and I was thinking about it, is that I bounced the two because they're kind of in the same sector in terms of their operations. And it turned out, even though G Vernova is higher, right? But I don't know what it's trading at right now. It's like $500 and above. But it kind of the data based on what I did showed that G Vernova was actually undervalued in terms of just using the PEGI ratio to estimate, right? You know, based on all the metrics. And I found that very interesting because I was like, okay, why is it that? And I think it's right because now I'm looking at the drawdown on Irene. I'm like, oh, that may be right. But I don't know what the bottom is, right? So that is that. But then the other thing I wanted to comment on, and I think I had the whole thing about the history and where we are today. It's there's a lot of nuances to it because today my biggest takeaway in this space is what T said earlier about, you know, if you're gonna invest, you better put in the work. You can listen to people, but you better put in the work. And I can tell you, and I know Zach, you do this too. Putting in the work is not easy. Because if you don't, what you replace that with, and I think Jim Sammons talk about this a lot, he talks about emotion being a negative expected value trade, right? Every time you inject fear and greed, it influences your decision. And when you introduce that in anything that you do, it doesn't even have to be trading. It's a variable that is not accounted for in any model. And I think TD was talking about the model and what goes into the model, right? You have to factor in, and I think one of the things that we can't even, even for the time that I've been here and the things that I've gone through, there are times where, I mean, there are things that I'm numb to, right? I don't get moved by people making claims about certain things because thank God today you have tools, most sophisticated tools right in your hands that you can do some analysis on, right? And I hear people dismiss the output that AI offers, and I always question, it's also about your prompting, right? If you don't do the right prompting, yeah, the AI is just gonna hallucinate and give you garbage. If all you're doing is you're putting in lazy prompting, right? Then you're not gonna. If you're specific on what you need, it will give you what you need at least. It gets you probably 90% on towards your goal, and then maybe the rest, the 10%, you then have to apply your own logic, right? And then get there, but it's actually a useful tool and it helps people. And I think it doesn't matter what level you are, you can literally use this and self-educate yourself to a certain extent, and then get the information from others as well. The one thing that frustrates me about this comparison that people do, Bitcoin is Bitcoin. Bitcoin can be its own. It doesn't have to be, yeah, and I get it. A lot of the statisticians that like to bounce it together, like the EAT BTC, ratio that people use, which is good. But I think structurally, Ethereum is its own thing, right? It can be what it is. And the last comment I'll make is there's a book called the Cold Start Problem. That book is incredible. And the reason I'm referencing the book, The Cold Start Problem, is it highlights a lot of the nuances of network effects. It highlights the nuances of bundling, the nuances of platform dependency, a whole lot of things, right? So when you look at the space structurally and where we're at in the cycle that we're in, take away the maturity of the blockchains. These blockchains are literally digital economies, right? These you can categorize them based on their GDP, based on their scale, what they're building up. The other day, I was making the same comment about in the blockchain ecosystem, we talk about security, scalability, and decentralization. But if you look outside of the blockchain wall, even within the global central bank ecosystem, they have what they call the policy trilemma, right? You have the monetary autonomy, you have free capital flow, and you have the FX, which is a foreign exchange. Like if you're in any country, there is the yuan. You have, if you live in Ghana, where I'm from, there's the Ghanaian cedis. It's usually paired against the US dollar. The volatility of that can tell you what you need to do structurally if you're a business person or you trade internationally. If you go in Brazil, maybe Argentina, that's why USDT is actually doing well, right? So the point I'm making here is if you take that policy trilemma and you ask yourself, what are global central banks doing? There is some level of synchrony when it comes to how they move liquidity. If you just pick up China and the US and you're very, deep into the liquidity movements, you can kind of see that they're always synced. They do things timely. It's not by accident. It's all just coordinated. And if you ignore that, then again, it's on you because you have eliminated several variables in your decision making. And then you're probably going to blame somebody or blame the protocol because you got sucked into price. And all you're looking at is, look at the price. It's been down for the past 5 years. Okay, cool. But we're in a new era. The era we're in, I listened to Scott Bessent from the day one when he got this job. Whatever they're trying to accomplish, one of the key elements is deregulation. We still have 3 years in this administration. Anybody dismissing that, it's on them. You're probably not going to make money because deregulation and what the implications of that is. We're already seeing it. For those of us in crypto, you guys knew what happened the last 4 years with Gary. Every time he's on a media roadshow, it's almost like a freak out for all the crypto community. Today, that's all lifted off. I don't know that we have enough time, but if you look out in the future, 3 years out, by the time this administration is over, that deregulation aspect, again, we have the market structure bill, we have the Clarity Act. The Clarity Act, if you're somebody who looked into it, this is all for the institutions, right? The market structure, it talks about security, commodity, ancillary stuff, and then it helps all of us in crypto, the retail guys, to figure out our way around this. But I think some of these things are mispriced. A lot of people dismiss them, which is fine. I mean, everybody's here for their own reasons, right? If you're a maxi or you're not, and you're just trying to trade, whatever it is, everyone has something here. This crypto thing is an elephant. There's enough for everyone. But choosing like tribes it's probably one of the most dangerous thing you could do. In fact, the last comment I'll make is I have learned so far to just be a free agent. I've never really it's like I love community, but the danger of getting loyalty and getting hooked up is that there is a lot of liability in that. Okay, a lot of liability. And that's why I always tend to just stay, I could care less if you hit on my asset that I have. I could care less. It doesn't affect me. What I do know is that and I think T said this, showing up every day. You don't need to be smart. You don't need to be like a PhD. Just show up. Just show up. And somebody might call it luck if you catch a trade, but that's not luck. That's literally you showing up. And I think everybody needs to take that, right? Again, that's just my opinion. I'm just a random guy. And all I do is I try to show up. I love crypto. It's literally the general concept of it. And it's the merging of crypto and AI blows my mind. There's a lot of opportunities here for a lot of people, but some people introduce their own liability by trying to say, you know what, I don't care about all these things, which is fine. They could still live okay, but you don't know other people's circumstances. However they get to owning Bitcoin, it's none of your business, right? If I have to do my 9 to 5 and mine fiat, if I was just going to spend that fiat wastefully, that's another debate. But if I can strategically mine that fiat and put a portion of it into Bitcoin, that's a good thing too, right? It can't be one way. You can't say you can only have Bitcoin, but you can't have your job. You can have your job and you can still buy Bitcoin and do everything you need to do. And I think that's a good thing and a good way to look at it. Thank you, Zach, for this space as always. As you know, I'm always passionate about these topics, but we'll see you tomorrow, man.
Hey, before you close,
Go ahead.
$72,000 two years ago. And Zach, you know what project I'm talking about. $75,000 I was up on this project, but I integrated myself into the project way too much, to the point where I felt bad about paying myself, right? I felt like I was dumping on the community or, whatever. Well, guess what? While I was in the middle of moving, the owner of the company decided to rug pull the project. My 72,000 went to maybe 1,500, right? And guess what? I still got blamed for being the person that was inside of the rug. So not only did I get blamed for rugging the project, I also didn't make my $72,000. I was up over 100K at one point, right? So that is the realest shit you could ever say. Am I saying it? Mutash?
Yeah, Mutasco.
Mutasco. That is
Yeah.
the realest shit that I've heard, which is, man, that's the one thing I took away from the last cycle, the last bull run, is I don't owe anybody anything. The only people that I owe something to is the people that wake up in the morning every single day, right? Show me love, right? And obviously my followers as well. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna try to be as transparent as I possibly can, but I'm talking about the monetary side of it. If you get into a project, right, as you grow, Zach knows this as an influencer, right? People start talking about, uh, basically sponsorship opportunities. The one thing that I go into these things now with, I tell them straight up, if you give me tokens, I'm gonna sell them. Don't give them to me if you don't want me to sell them, or you can just pay me in cash, right? Those are the only options, right? And I tell my community the same thing. Hey, I got these tokens, I'm gonna sell them, because I don't want to be my opinion of a certain project to be based on a monetary value. I want it to be pure. And that's the only way you can remain pure is you remain, obviously you want to root for something that you're in, but this ain't a freaking basketball team. The markets are not basketball teams. They're not football teams. They are financial assets that are here to take your lunch money. Right? And if they don't take your lunch money, they're going to come take somebody else's lunch money. Right? So you can sit there and hold the bag all the way to the end and, yell diamond hands until it's over. And you'll be the person left with nothing. I guarantee it, because I went through it. Right? I wasn't left with nothing because I got a job. I don't have a job. I haven't worked in 5 years, but I'm retired military, right? Like, I'm good no matter what crypto does, right? That's one more thing that I wanted to tap in on, Zach. This is a great space, and I appreciate you being even available this long. But the other thing is before you get to investing, before you get to trading, whatever it is, please, for the love of God, have a baseline of financial gain, whether that be a job, a career, retirement, right? Have a baseline that covers all of your expenses, no matter if you lose your ass in crypto or stocks. That's what makes trading so easy for me. I wouldn't even say easy, because trading is the most difficult thing I've ever done. I'm at a phase now where trading has become a lot easier. This is what I'll say. But the reason why is because I realized, like, hey man, you need to make sure your income is good before you engage in like trying to pass, trying to add money into a portfolio to try to trade it, because you're gonna take losses. Like it's a personal thing, right? You're a human. You're gonna take losses. But anyway, I just wanted to touch on that, the influencer side of it, the community driven stuff, man. Stay away from. I'm not gonna say stay away from it. Just know how to isolate yourself from it, so it's a healthy rally, so that nobody should be upset with you because you sold to feed your family. That's absurd.
So
So
T, I only said
Hobbs, we're
that
gonna
because
take. Oh, sorry.
I went through it. So that's why I was able to say you can't teach somebody how to not F this up. You have to literally get ragged. And that pain, I don't know how to teach that to anybody. I'm just sharing, you know what led me. I don't know if you've read this book, but it would be good to read it. Steve Covey's book. I think the title is Speed of Trust. When I went through that experience, I had to find something that I could help myself mentally to grow out of. And I did a lot of other things, but so to your point, you just need to. You cannot. And knowledge also, if you're not feeding into it, it decays. So you can say I'm an expert today. If you're not seeking new knowledge, you're going to be wrecked. And I think this space is moving at such a speed that anybody claiming to know it all, they're just full of it, right? Because it's dynamic and at a fast pace. Again, that's how I learned, and the pain is real. And if you tell somebody right now, they're gonna roll their eyes on you, like they're like, "What are you talking about?" I mean, this is belief. Okay, good for you. I'm not gonna teach you that, but I'll say it out loud. You find out one day, right? And that's it.
Yeah, now that Hobbs brought that up and Matasco, you alluded to it. I mean, I'll share a couple things too before we shut it down. It's like the market's changed so much from back then. Like even like the deals, like when I was first coming in the market, first off, I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but I grew this influence, kind of just stumbled into it, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm doing this thing, and I'm like, and like I still am like this today. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure it all out. Back then was just so different. But I can tell you guys a few stories, and I've shared some of this stuff. And me and Hobbs have met in person. Like we've had a beer together. Like Zach and I have met in person. Mara and I have met now in person. Like, the thing is, man. Like, I remember a day. So I invested in this project, and this was not like tokens given to me. This was like on the open market. And I won't say the project or anything, but I felt I got in myself into this thing that just happened. I put a good amount of 5 figures into a project when it launched, and it did extremely well. At one point, it was worth $7 million. Now, I couldn't sell all the $7 million because of liquidity, obviously, but I became like a top 10 holder in this project, and people think like that's a good thing. What I quickly realized is there's a lot of downside shit to that, especially if you're somebody with a platform and a voice. Right now, it's like everybody's coming at me like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I'm like, and on one hand, I'm like, I can do whatever I want. I took this risk. I did this. Like I put up $60,000 of my own money to get in this because I believed in the project. I guessed right. What do you mean? What am I? I can do whatever I want. But it was that tug and pull of like, now I'm part of this community and I don't want to hurt somebody else. Long story short, they ended up like locking up my tokens. And why I agreed to this, I still will never know. But you guys know how it is, man. When things happen and you let your emotions control you. And again, 4 years ago, I wouldn't make the same mistake today. But you can always look back on life and say, "Oh man, like what the hell was I thinking 4 years ago?"
Zach,
Right?
I got a question. Did you say lock or they blacklisted your wallet?
No, bro. They locked my tokens for 12 months, and by the time I got them out, now I had taken some profits off the table a little bit. I think by the time I locked it up, it was still worth like 2 million. By the time it was unlocked, it was down to like 600K. Now I ended up still winning on that investment. Like I ended up putting 60 in, and I think I ended up probably profiting like 800K. And I'll just tell you guys that straight up. But at one time, it was worth $7 million. Right.
So
and,
you guys don't take those KOL deals vested over 6 years, right?
well,
Here's
and I made that mistake
$100,000,
too, Coach. But that
right?
wasn't this. This was I just invested on the open market. I just invested on the open market, and did well on it. And but no, I've taken the KOL deals. I've put 5-10 grand in things that still haven't launched, and I still see these cats with a table at a crypto conference. I'm like, yo, y'all are spending 20 grand on this table. Are you guys going to launch ever? I won't say names, but there's so much shit that goes through it. And I mean, one thing I learned just from like the whole taking deals stuff, because that's a big part of the business when you're, doing this at full time or whatever. But I work with a lot of companies now. They don't need me to pump their price tomorrow, right? Like I work on a monthly basis with Algorand. They're an established company. They're not looking for me to pump the price of Algorand from 15 cents to 30 cents in 24 hours, right? Nor could I. You know what I'm saying? They're looking for brand awareness. They're looking for high quality content, bringing on, a representative, sharing their story out with my people. I work with VeChain. Same thing. Like these guys, they don't want, it's different. It's different when you start working with these type of projects. I work with Crypto.com, Stellar XLM, and you've kind of you find your way in the space over time, and you find what you don't want to do, what you do want to do, and you just kind of learn and grow with it. But that's who I try to align myself now with more so, because when you get in with these startups, it could be great, but man, there's so many things that can go wrong. There's so many things that can go wrong, right? When they're just getting started. If you can find one and openly invest on it and it does well, I mean, I still will take those bets 100%. But they're just few and far between, and I don't take them as often as I once did. You know what I mean? It's just because there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong, especially if you're somebody who has like a voice, and you become like a big holder or whatever. People look at you different. Mar, I know you've been a top 10 holder in shit, bro. There's a lot that comes with it, man. Like,
Oh
You
yeah,
have a reputation to protect too,
right. That too.
that I've been in a pre-sale stock in there for almost 9 months already, probably even 10 months, man, with 5 figures, and I actually was blocked from those people just because I said, look, enough with Zooms. Can we get some concrete news? And they blocked me. For me, that money's probably gone.
That's
when
how
it
you
comes
know.
out. Yeah, it's probably not so much that they're gonna rob, but when you block somebody just like that, the performance of the coin is probably gonna suck. But it's the worst thing is what I've always told Brian from Parchain, and he agrees with me. Like no dates, man, no dates. And these people have had like 4 different launch dates already. I mean, not Parchain, that pre-sale I got into, And I'm always in top of Brian, because I hold a nice bag of paw, and I always tell him, do no dates, just give 3 months, 6 months. There's another chain out there that was supposed to launch, I want to say September to October, and they have delayed it again. And not September, October this year. I'm talking about September, October last year. And it's just a lot of it has to do. Some of it probably has to do with regulations. But yeah, man, it just sucks. Now, listen, I'm not in a bad mood having 5 figures. I know this project is not a scam. I know they will launch, but I just told them, man, stop with the dates and the soon, and just come up with some concrete stuff. And I'm glad that I have the money parked there, because who knows how much that money would have been in this market today, So yeah, man, it sucks, it sucks to. At the end of the day, all you could say is just it's $8 million in market cap, dude. And as a responsible investor, I know it's hard. Some people are like, "Oh, I would have full clipped it." Maybe if you would have full clipped $8 million, because this is the thing, Zach, and I'll land the plane with this. why some people full clip. Okay, and a lot of people don't understand why they full clip. I seen stories where guys that said, "Look, man, I've had $3 million. The team is very like picky for everything. They're really strict. I've had $3 million and I full clip and I've taken 1.4, 1.6, 1.2 million. I'm like, why? And this is not once. Many times this story, Zach, they're like, well, I full clipped because the smart thing is maybe get out within 2 weeks, little by little. Sell 10%, 10%, and maybe those 3 million, I'll get 2 million or 2.5 million, even more if the price is going up. But a lot of reason, the real reason why people full clip is because everyone, if all those, even if you have your coins in 10 different wallets, okay, people know how to track, and the team will know those 10 wallets belongs to you. And people full clip because they feel like they're scared for their wallet to be, for all those wallets to be blacklisted, and that's why they full clip.
100%. No, I get it. I mean, they'll take the price impact knowing that they're going to get whatever they're going to get, and at least because that's a whole nother issue, man. Yeah, you start to take profits a little bit, and somebody doesn't like it. Okay, now your tokens aren't worth anything. Yeah, I mean, it's true. Saga, I seen you came up here, man. I do want to shut it down, but I'll let you jump in real quick, bro. Go ahead.
Hey guys, good afternoon. Yeah, so I just want to clarify actually kind of what you guys are saying. So like if you're part of a project and you start taking some profit and literally like blacklist your wallet so that your tokens don't mean shit.
Well,
that's what you guys are saying?
This happens a lot with small cap projects, right? Like startups, things like that. But there's also now like people are smart enough to look and see if there's a blacklist feature like in the contract before you get into something. You can run it through like an AI audit now, which we didn't really have all those tools back in 2020, 2021. Now you can run it through like I'll tell you a good one is Quick Intel. I was a private investor in them when they launched. They got a really cool platform, Quick Intel, but there's a bunch of them. Quick Intel is embedded into Dex Tools too. You can actually on Dex Tools, if you're looking at a little startup chart or meme coin or whatever, if you go down to that bottom left-hand corner, you can click. There's a little button called Intel. They're actually partnered up with Dex Tools, and it'll run a little AI audit. It'll give you anything that's like jumping out at you on the contract, whether it's like, any red flags.
Yeah, same on deck screen on the right. If you scroll down, it's got the Intel there. It will tell you if it's a honeypot, if it's got blacklist, whitelist, all of that stuff. But it's not. They're not very accurate, so you are better off using the original software. Whoever it is that's speaking just mentioned, they know how to bypass certain networks on deck screen. It doesn't show you it's a honeypot, so it doesn't work for every network.
I do want to say one thing, man. Don't a blacklist feature in a project. Don't let that be a red flag. The red flag is the team, the way you see them act, But a lot of projects I'm in they have a blacklist, and I sell, and because I know the team they understand it's a free market, But yeah, and I think most of the projects do have that. They have a lot of them. They say they have that feature for the coins that they give away, and there's contracts that they can't sell, so they'll blacklist that wallet. They even try to sell it, but yeah, don't let that be a red flag. If your projects have a blacklist feature on it, the team is the one that's the red flag just by their behavior, how they act. If you see them like blocking people just because they're asking, questions or worry about their behavior that they've shown, then that should worry you a little bit about the blacklist.
Thanks guys, I appreciate that. Yeah, like just listening, like I was talking to Debbie and Michael DeFi last night, and yeah, they always talk about they watch how these teams move, and like that's why they go to these crypto events to like see if the people are the same in person as they are hiding behind their PFP. And you know, that's why I'm going to continue to network, and that's why I keep coming back here every day. I've been really busy with work the past couple weeks, but I still try and squeeze in and come say hi. So thanks for letting me come up as usual, Zach. I appreciate it.
Always, man. Always welcome. All right, guys. Hey, hell of a space. We went for like 3 hours today. We'll shut it down. I got to go put out some videos and got a couple meetings this afternoon. Got to get to some other stuff, but always good to just chat and always learn from a bunch of you all up here. So appreciate it. Make sure you follow all the speakers up here. Be back tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern.
Take care, Zach. Thanks for having me up. Bye-bye.
Peace out, Zach. Have a
Definitely,
good one,
man.
Hey, I got something real quick, just real quick.
Go ahead, Coach.
If you want to read the history of Bitcoin, that was going through memory lane last night. It's called charts.bitbo.io/price, and it's the full story from day one.
Send me
And
that,
I
Coach.
think,
DM me
yeah,
that. I want to look at that.
yeah. So just scroll down from the charts, and then it gives you everything. You know, when it finally hit $1, and when the very first transaction was when the Lazio guy did the pizza thing. You'll really enjoy this. So I'll send it to you.
Yeah. I want to check that out. Appreciate you, man. All right. Appreciate you guys.
All right, man. You know,